Okay, this is very special topic, operator overloading. By the way, so far we have done first of all brief introduction to the Visual Programming 2, and then we discussed the graphics interface or the graphic device interface GDI plus, and then we discussed a brief about concurrent programming, and then some problems with the concurrent programming, like where do we need to cache. And then I told you we can use many different ways of synchronization, and we tried using one method called semaphore topic a bit correlation, and they came into the regular expressions. So last day we discussed regular expressions. As far as I remember, we finished discussing everything that I have allocated for this course, and then you did answer some questions, and then I collected it to give some marks. And today also I'm willing kind of enjoyable part of this course, which is operator overloading. And once you completed this one, you will be able to use this operator overloading for an application. I will provide you some exercise to do this, to apply this operator overloading concept in one of the application. And ultimately in this topic we are going to use operator overloading at the end of the exercise, as well as some of the previously learned topic GDAs, to create a very beautiful art out of this the topics that you have already learned, right? So basically now you are going to incrementally apply the things that you learned in an application. For an example, here you learned many different stuff, right? Including the unary operators, the binary operators likewise. So if you can apply these things blended with the previous things that you device interface, then that means you can actually integrate all the knowledge that you gain in one application, and then you can use it for creating some meaningful application, right? Okay, so I will brief about what kind of, I guess you already know that the concept of overloading a function, right? So if I ask what does it mean by overloading a function? How do you overload a function? What does it mean by overloading a function? Do you have any idea about overriding a function? Function overriding or method overriding? What does it mean by method overriding method? And what's the meaning of overloading a function or overloaded function? What does it mean? Can somebody answer? Okay, I received 2 answers, 3 answers. An overloaded function is a set of different functions that happen to have same name. Okay, having the same name, what's the difference then? 2 more functions with same name, multiple functions with same name, different parameters. That's the answer, right? You can define more than one function, more than one method with the same name, but with a different set of parameters, right? So that's the answer, right? That's a complete answer. Other answers are just partially correct, right? So overloading means you will have just the same function, but based on the parameters you are passing, it will call the different body of the function. So that means you have defined multiple functions with the same name, but based on the set of parameters that you are providing, it will call the relevant function, right? That's called overloading. So what if we can do the same with the operators? What are the operators? I received one answer. One said the addition. Is it yeah, the dot operator? The division, asterisk mark means the multiplication. These are the operators, right? Correct. So any other operators you know? Is that all? What are the other operators available? Mechanical operators, C#, Nathan Java. Okay, I received another operator. Yes, assignment is another operator, right? A single assignment operator or equal mark is an assignment operation, correct? Okay, category wise, I received another answer from B13, arithmetic, logical operators, assignment operator. Okay. Yeah, arithmetic, logical operations. Relational means, what do you mean relational? Again, the logical, right? Logical operators, correct. Okay, I will just quickly put some. So, what is this operator? Okay, I received an answer as O. If I ask which O, a strange question, right? Now, binary O. Okay, we don't call it as binary O. That's something to do with the binary, but this is not the logical O. Right, correct. Ketika's answer is correct. That is bitwise operator. It's actually bitwise O operator, right? It's bitwise operator. I guess you know what does it mean, right? By the way, if you don't know, please let me know. Then I will recap what it is. Right. So anyway, it seems that you know what it is, bitwise operator. And this one, what is this? This one is okay. I received an answer from Bhaskar. It's logical. I need the precise answer. There's something to do with the logical. What do you mean by we didn't get? What do you mean by we didn't get, Ketika? It's your answer, right? Your answer is correct.
We didn't get your question, sir.
No, I'm asking now. The second one is double pipeline. The first answer is correct, right? That is bitwise operator. So there's a difference, right? Bitwise operator and other one is this. What's the name of the next one? The double.
In the chat box, we didn't get any messages.
I guess. Sorry, I'm selecting. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, what about this? It's logical O, and also we call this one as short circuited, right? We call it as short circuited operator. I'm not going to explain why it is called short circuited, but there's a very straightforward answer for this, right? Why do we call it as short circuited or short circuited AND operator, right? So this one is short circuited AND operator. By any chance, do you know why do we call it as short circuited? It's very simple, right? If you have two variables x and y, and you are checking x double equal, let's say 3, and then you mention the y equals 4. If there's something like this, right? If there is something like this, now there is an if condition, and within the conditions you have a statement, and within this statement you are checking whether x equals 3 and y equals 4, right? In this way, what if if does not equal 3? Then it will return x double equal 3, or the x is the value of the x is 3. It returns false, right? So do we need to evaluate this expression as well. That is, this expression mean y equal 4. If you already know that x equal 3 is false, right? Then do we need to evaluate the expression? Is it mandatory? I'm asking now, in order to evaluate the full expression within the if condition, do we need to evaluate the expression, the part of the expression that is y equal 4? Okay, I received 2 answers. From Ketika, no, not needed, and from Saumya, yes. Okay, the correct answer is we really don't need, right? And also Karnaratna also saying yes. The answer is actually no, right? Answer is actually no. Why? If this one is false, right? If this one is false, or the x equal 3 is false, then definitely you will get false out of the total expression, right? False and something, right? So what's the answer? Definitely, it's definitely false, right? Yes, correct. It's definitely false. So it doesn't matter what expression is there, right? If you get the false at the beginning, and then you have the short circuited and, right? And the next operation, you don't have to evaluate, right? Or the compiler or the processor does not evaluate that expression. It's simply short circuited, right? So that means it simply does not evaluate the next part. It simply short circuit the whole logical operations and then send the output, right? So it can actually save the processing, the requirement or the processing demand, because you are not going to evaluate some of the expressions here, or some of the expressions after the short circuit AND operator. What if you have something like if true and something? Now what? Do we need to evaluate that something part? Yes, now we need to check the next one as well. So it will just short circuit partly, because if the logical expressions guarantees us, it gives us a false, then we don't have to check the second one. In that case, it will short circuit. Otherwise, it will evaluate the second expression as well. So what about the O operation? What about the O operation? If true or something, do we need to evaluate the something part now? Here, no, right? Because we know that if the first part is true, then somehow, regardless of the output of the second expression, we'll definitely get it true. So because of that, we don't have to evaluate that something part, right? So that's the difference. Okay, one more question. What is this? What is this operation does? Great, right? Great. Ketika, your answer is correct. It is XOR or exclusive operator, and I assume yes, it's bitwise exclusive operator, correct? And I assume that you know what it does, right? So okay, so we can straightforwardly go to the operator overloading there. So likewise, there are many more operations. Okay, few more. This one? This is bit shifting operator for the left bit shifting and right bit shifting, correct? Receive the correct answer from Chamon, correct. Right, and there are many other operators available, so I'm not going to explain all these operators one by one, but anyway, there are many operators, right? You should know. And also, what if we can just change the definition of this operator? So that's called the operator overloading, right? So that means we are using the same operator, right? Same set of operators, but they will have different definitions, right? So that's called operator overloading. And also it provides additional capabilities. Okay, one more. Yeah. So, and also it provides additional capabilities when they are applied to user-defined data types. So what do we have? Do we have user-defined data types? Now we already have data types provided or inbuilt in the C# or whatever the language we have. And what if we need to define operator or some definition for the operators for our own data types, right? So what kind of data type? Assume you have a matrix, right? If you have a matrix and if you need to add two matrices together, then you know that it is it's not simply can be added together using the add operator, right? Like a matrix and what we are doing is we are going to keep these two the values of the two matrices within just two objects, right? And you define an object type to keep these the values of the matrix, right? All the elements of the matrix. Now, what if you have just two objects called x1 and x2, and then you are going to add the two matrices together, and you know that we can actually add the two matrices together, right? So, but the thing is, the way of addition is different, right? Because now instead of just one variable, like and two integers or maybe two doubles or maybe two long variables, now we have a bunch of values within the same object, right? Because it's a matrix, not just one variable. So if we need to just add two matrices together, then that addition of matrix has a different definition. So that means you are actually doing element-wise addition, right? Adding two matrices means you are doing element-wise addition. So the end results will be again another matrix, right? Not just an integer or maybe a double like a single variable. So how do you define that? So there you need to do this operator overloading. So you can actually define new definition for this plus mark. So if you define this one or overloaded the additional mark for the plus mark, then you can use simple addition operator with your own object type, that is matrix, right? Similarly, there are many types of object types available, right, which you can think of overriding or overloading the operators, right? So actually, we will do some example for this one. Then you will learn how to do this overloading. Right, this enables to make user-defined implementation of various operations where one or both of the operands are of the user-defined. Now, this is another thing. Now, can you add a single value to a matrix? That means, let's say you have a matrix. Okay, I will draw this one. Right now, here we have a matrix. Right, x equal 5, 1, 2, 3. Right. Now, x is actually a kind of object. Right, x is an object which holds this matrix. And you have, let's say, another value 5. Now you are going to assign another integer for this, or maybe multiply this one with another value. So now I'm going to say, okay, y is actually a matrix again, equal x times of, right? This is actually x, right? X times of 5. So now here we have a user-defined type. This is a matrix type, right? We define it. We define the class. And this one is a constant, right? This one is a constant. Or we can actually define it as an integer, right? Let's say it's an integer variable, c, right? It's an int c and equal 5. So instead of doing this one, we can actually say, okay, y equal x times of c. Now what? This is a user-defined type, and this one is a built-in type, right? It is a built-in type, right? So the answer should be what? So this is not just a defined operation, right? We have an object and we are multiplying an object with an integer. So you cannot multiply an integer. You cannot multiply an object with an integer. So what you have to do, you have to overload this particular operator and then define what to do with this newly received operator, right? Operand actually. So now here you have to define, okay, whenever you receive an operand, an integer operand with a user define your own type, then what you have to do is you have to just multiply 5 with this one, right? Multiply this one, multiply this one, and multiply this one. So you have to define it, right? You have to define it. But anyway, if you want to define it, then you can actually do this. You can actually multiply your defined objects or the defined type of object with with any integer, right? Similarly, you can just multiply like this: y equal x times x, right? X times of x. So this is also possible. Now here, this is a user-defined object, a user-defined type object. This one also user-defined type object, and here if it's a special case, you are getting the same object. And also, if you have another object, let's say we have something like S, right? Another matrix, which is a somewhat different type. Let's say 5, 1, 3, 5, 6, something like this. Now you can actually doing this something like this: y equal x multiplied by s. Now here, this one is also user-defined type. This one is also an object from the user-defined type. So this is also possible, right? You can just get the two operands from this different or maybe the same user-defined type, and still you can overload this multiplication. Now here you can actually use maybe matrix multiplication, right? You can implement. I guess you know what matrix multiplication, right? So you can use that matrix multiplications. Right? 5 with 5, 1 with 2, then 5 with 1, 1 with 5, right? Then 5 with 3, 1 with 6, and then 2 with 5, 3 with 2. Likewise, you can keep doing this multiplication to get the answer, right? So that's the introduction to the operator overloading, and I guess you get some brief idea about what kind of thing that are we going to do, right? Right. To use operators with the user-defined data types, they need to be overloaded according to the programmer's requirement. So that means it's totally our own requirement. And an operator can be overloaded by defining a function to it. So that means we are pretty much use the same way as function overloading to do the operator overloading. The only difference is we use the keyword called operator, right? We use the keyword called operator when we are doing the operator overloading. Right, so this is the anatomy of the operator overloading function, right? As you can see, it's a function or a method. It must be public and static. It's a must, right? Public should be there and the static should be there because we are calling this through a kind of class, right? So they can take only value arguments, right? Only value arguments, right? So that means the reference and out parameters are not allowed as arguments to the operation, argument to this function. So that means in typical functions we can use ref. Ref means you are just referring not to the value but to the address of the variable, right? That's possible, especially when you are going to change the value, and then you need to reflect that change value back via the past through the past argument, right? Pass by reference. By the way, do you have that idea, the concepts in your mind, the pass by reference and pass by value? ඔගොල්ලෝ දන්නවද pass by reference සහ pass by value ඒ දාන්නේ දෙකේ වෙනස? By the way, some of you asked me to just explain in Sinhala. I'm told anyway, I will explain what I have done so far in Sinhala as well, right? මෙතන අපි කතා කරේ operator overloading ගැන. මෙතන ලොකු දෙයක් නැහැ. කරන්න තියෙන එකම දේ අපි දැනට define කරලා තියෙන කියන operator එකට define කරලා තියෙන මේ task එක එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ function එක අපි වෙනස් කරන එක තමයි කරන්නේ. අපිට අදාළ නැත්නම් අපිටම අවශ්‍ය විදිහට අපිට කැමති object එකකට. ඒගොල්ලෝ දැනට define කරලා තියෙන මේක variables වලට ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා ඇති integer නැත්නම් numerical variables වලට objects වලට සමහර ඒවා define කරලා තියෙන උදාහරණයක් assignment operator එක වගේ එක objects වලට predefined. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක අපි හදනකොට මේක define වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. නමුත් අපිට additionally අපිට වෙනත් operators අපිට ඕන නම් overload කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මේකේ එක උදාහරණයක් තමයි මේ ඔයා matrix එකක් හදනවා නම් matrix එකක් එකතු කරද්දී එතකොට matrix කියන එක ඇත්තටම ඔයා තියාගෙන elements කීපයක් object එකක් ඇතුලේ. එතකොට ඒ object එක ඔයා තවත් matrix එකක් එක්ක එකතු කරනවා නම් ඒ වෙලාවේදී අපිට addition කියන mark එක දැන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපිට ඕක ඕන function එකකට define කරන්න පුළුවන්. matrix.add within bracket you can pass another matrix, right? ඒ කියන්නේ matrix.add කියන function එකකට තව matrix එකක් pass කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මේ .add කියන එක වෙනුවට අපිට පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් addition mark එක. කියන්නේ plus mark එක පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මේ plus mark එකට අපිට අලුත් තේරුමක් දෙන්න වෙනවා. ඒක කොහොමද matrix දෙකක් හම්බුනොත් කොහොමද එකතු කරන්න කියන්නේ. එතකොට matrix එකක් තවත් matrix එකක් එකත් එකතු කරන්න පුළුවන්. matrix එකකට තව constant එකක් එකතු කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම තමයි constant එකකට matrix එකක් එකතු කරන්නත් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ matrix දෙකක් එකතු කර matrix දෙකක් වැඩි කරන්නත් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. බෙදන්න ඔය වගේ අපිට ඒ ඕනම එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ operator overloading වලින්. right? හරි අන්තිමට මම ඇහුවේ මෙතන දැන් මේ anatomy of operator overloading කියන්නේ overloading function එකක තිබිය යුතු අංග තියෙනවා කීපයක්. පළවෙනි එක තමයි මේ දෙන්න එක static and public and static වෙන්න ඕන අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම. ඒ වගේම return type එකක් තියෙන්න ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ operator keyword එක තියෙන්න ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ අදාළ operator එක තියෙන්න ඕන. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයාගේ parameter list එක තියෙන්න ඕන. type t. right? එතකොට මේකේ මම මේක කියලා තියෙනවා the ref and out parameters are not allowed. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් out parameters කියලා කියන්නේ අපි එළියට දෙන parameter එකක් කියන එක. ඒකට අපිට මොකුත් pass කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. කෙලින් මේකෙන් value එකක් එළියට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම ref parameters. මම out parameters ගැන කතා කරන්නේ මොකද ඒක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අනිත් languages වල නැති නිසා. මෙතන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි ref parameters. right? So what I asked was what does it mean by ref? මම ඇහුවේ ref කියන එක නැත්නම් pass by reference කියන එකයි pass by value කියන එකේ වෙනස මොකක්ද කියලා මම ඇහුවේ. ඒක දන්නවද කියලා. ඒක දන්නේ නැත්නම් මම දැන් එකක් පොඩි උදාහරණයක් පෙන්නන්නම්. I'll create a new project. It's a console application. We'll use variable passing and like this. Here we get a method. And I'm going to create a new one, another function. Right? Another function ek makadane yanne. Public static okay. Let's say right, so whenever you place it here So here's a program, right? This is a program. So can you tell me, once you run this one, can you tell me what's the output of this program quickly in the chat box? Okay, I received an answer from B1 3, 6 and 5. X equals 6 and Y equals 5. Any other answers? Okay, he changed the answer to X equals 6 and Y equals 6. Others? X equals 6, Y equals 5. Karnataka. Others, quickly. Any different answer? Okay, got another answer from Saumya. X equals 6, Y equals 5. It's almost same answer, right? Okay. Anybody got a different answer? Meet a වෙනස් answer එකක්. I got answer from B113, B13. Okay, received an answer from Ketika. Okay, Takshila Jaini 66, Ketika 57, B11 57 and 66. Okay, let's see what happened here. There you go. The answer is 57, right? Answer is 57. X equal 5 and Y equal 7. How come? Now this is called pass by value actually, right? Now even though you don't know that maybe you didn't know this parameter passing before, right? Maybe you have already created functions and you pass parameters. What we have done so far is just pass by value, right? So why do we call it as pass by value? Because when you, even though you define x equal 5 and y equal 7, and here you are passing, right? It seems you are passing just two variables, right? What you are really passing is not the variable but the value, right? So that means when you passing x, that means you actually passing the value 5, not the variable itself, right? So here it actually something like not you are increasing x but increasing 5, right? So here it actually, right, it actually increase the 5, right? So that means now the value of x will get 6 and the value of y will get just 6. Sorry, x will be 6 and y also will become 6, right? But this x is not same as this x, right? This is a newly created variable, right? Newly created variable by the system only for within this method. මේ method එක ඇතුළට හදපු variable එකක් තමයි x කියලා කියන්නේ. මේ x කියලා කියන්නේ, right? Because this particular variable does not refer to this variable, right? What it actually does is, right, අපි ඇත්තට මේක වෙන්නේ ඇතුළේදී it creates something like this, right? Not here actually, right? It's happening here, somewhere here, right? It actually creates int x, right? And then you get the value of this x, and here you get it's okay, it's actually 5, and you have another one int y, it's equal 7. So these two variables are totally different from these two variables. Only similar thing is x and y having its value, right? Okay, let's change it a bit. Okay, I made it as ref and ref. So this one has to be passed with the ref keyword, and in this one also with ref keyword. Now the expected answer, right? Now the expected answer, x equals 6 and y equals 6. So that means this x has been increased and this y has been decreased, increased and decreased, right? So but the answer is different from the previous one. Why? Because here you are using x and y with the reference. Now this is called pass by reference, right? So here you are not passing the value of this x, instead you are passing the reference of the x. So that means you are simply giving, okay, this is the variable, right? You are giving the variable to this method. කියන්නේ මේ method එකට ඔයා දෙන්නේ මේ variable එකේ value එක නෙමෙයි, මේ variable එක පිටින්ම ඔයා දෙනවා, right? Since you are giving the variable, so when you do some modifications over this x, right, when you do some modification over this x, then you definitely, that new value will definitely appear here. For an example, if you say now the x is 10, right? Now the x is 10, right? Because this x is same as this x, right? It's referring to this particular x. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. But I guess you got the idea. Right? Is it clear for you? Is it clear for you? Very good. Pass by references is not available for the operator overloading. So the anatomy is like this. You have to keep this in mind, right? Should be public, should be static, and there must be a return type. And then you have to have this operator keyword and then the operator itself. And if you have some parameters, you can keep going on with the parameters, right? and there may be more than one parameters also based on the number of operands that the operator is having, right? So what operators can be overloaded and what operators cannot be overloaded, and what are the other restrictions? Right, first of all the binary operators in the C# can be overloaded. That means addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, remainder, bitwise AND, pipeline operator, and shifting operators. Any of these can be overloaded, and these are binary operators. Right? So binary operators mean these operators are having just two operands, right? Operands දෙකක් තියෙන හින්දා අපි මේවට කියන binary operators. And then you have these unary operators which are having just one operand, right? Plus, minus, right? And exclamation, tilde mark, increase, increment. Right. So here the unary operators mean you have only one operand. So as you can see, you can just overload these operators as well. And also relational operators. All the relational operators also can be overloaded, right? But you can do this as only as pairs, right? Like equals, not equals, less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal. These things can be overloaded. Can you see? You cannot overload the short-circuited AND operators and short-circuited OR operator. Also, you cannot overload it.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
share කරලා නැහැ. පේන්නේ.
How about now?
ඔව් දැන් හරි sir.
Right. Okay, we were talking about the unary operators can be overloaded, and the relational operators also can be overloaded by these AND operators, pipeline mark, or the short-circuited AND and short-circuited OR operators. They can't be overloaded. Array index operators can't be overloaded. You know what is array index operators, right? Especially when you define a list or maybe an array, then index can be given within these two box brackets. And also conversion operators cannot be overloaded. Conversion operators, these two parentheses, they cannot be overloaded, right? And we have another types of operators called plus equal, minus equal. Is actually on the spot, right? On the spot, the assignment and arithmetic operation. So these are just two operations, arithmetic and assignment. Both are there, right? So we call them as compound assignment operators. They can be overloaded, right? They can be overloaded, but in C#, these operators are automatically overloaded when the respective binary operators are overloaded, right? Respective binary operators are overloaded. If you do this one, right, the addition, then addition and equal compound assignment will be automatically overloaded, right? So what about this assignment operator, dot operator, and what is this one? Ever use this operator? This is called as tertiary operator, right? You can operands තුනක් තියෙනවා. Correct your answers, Jamod. And with if not with if, right? You are not using this with if because it's having the condition true or false, right? So you can use this instead of using if in some cases, right? So for an example, you can have some condition here, right? I will show you condition. You can do something like this: x equal condition and question mark, right? If the condition is true, then what we have to return has to be placed at the beginning, before the colon mark. And if the condition is false, then you have to place what should be returned in the second part, right? So this is there. Anyway, this cannot be overloaded, right? So it doesn't matter whether you know it or not. right? And also this one, we typically use point operator. This is also not usable. New keyword is not cannot be overloaded. Is an operator, you cannot overload it. As also an operator cannot be overloaded. Size of is another operator, you can't overload it, right? But anyway, think how many operators you can overload, right? And see how many operators will be overloaded by the system for yourself. Right, so let's see how do you overload a unary operator, right? Unary operator mean an operator which takes only one operand, right? See how you're doing it. Public static, as you know, the typical anatomy of the operator overloading should be public and static. And then there must be a return type, operator, the operator, right? And the type. Okay. The type must be a class or a struct, right? Struct, I mean a structure. Right? It a class or a structure type, right? And the return type, it can be any type except void, right? Void return type will not be accepted, right? For the unary operators like plus, tilde, exclamation, and the dot, right? And it must be, the return type must be the same type as this one, right? May type become a return type, especially when you have this plus plus and negation operator, also the subtraction operator, right? It must be Boolean type for true and false operator, right? True false කියන operators දෙකක්. ඒ දෙන්නගේ ඒ කියන්නේ true false අපි කොහොමද බලන්නේ? Let's say you can say, okay, if here you can pass an object, right? Kind of object. Now here the true false operator are activated. ඒකට මේකෙන් return වෙන value එක මේක true or false operator ද conditional operator එකක් කියලා කියනවා. ඒතර මේකේ return වෙන්නේ true or false, right? Now, in order to evaluate an object without any assignment, without any equals or maybe not equal mark, or the comparison mark like greater than, less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal, then definitely you have to overload these true false operators for this particular object type, right? Now you should know the constraints for this, right? Keep this in mind, right? And if you still cannot keep these things in mind, then you can keep using this one, then it will automatically recorded in your brain, right? Right. The true and false operators, they can be overloaded only as pairs, right? You will see why is that. And a compilation error occurs if the class declares one of these operators without declaring the other, right? ඒ කියන්නේ false true overload කරොත් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම false උත් overload කරන්නම ඕන, right? එකක් විතරක් overload කරලා තිබ්බොත් එimhe අනිත් එක නෑ කියලා compilation error එකක් තියෙයි, right? It's definitely you have to, if you implement true, then you have to implement the false as well, other, and also vice versa. If you implemented false, then definitely you have to implement the true, or you have to overload the true as well. And if you only define only one of these two operators, then the compilation, there will be a compilation error to complaining, okay, you don't have the other part, right? This is one example. Does anybody know about complex numbers? How they run complex numbers? Okay, what does it mean by ing? I received an answer from Ketika. The answer is numbers with, yeah, minus the root of the -1, right, or the root of the negative. In another word, if you have square root of -1 means I, right? That means I. So the complex numbers, නැත්නම් සංකීර්ණ සංඛ්‍යා කියන්නේ අපි සාමාන්‍ය පාවිච්චි කරන numbers ජාතිය, right? On the only thing is they are in a different space, right? වෙනම අවකාශයක තියෙන අපි ඒකට කියනවා සංකීර්ණ අවකාශය කියලා, complex numbers or the complex space, right? And we can do lots of things using complex numbers, and today also we are going to do some very beautiful stuff using complex numbers, right? And if you don't know what is complex number, it's nothing but you have just you have a number and there are two parts for this number, right? Now typically what you are working with previously is actually just real numbers, right? Real numbers mean whatever the number it is, 5, right, 3 or 6, whatever the number, they are just real, right? Or maybe just let's say 54.5, it's again a real number. And if you have some number which are having two parts, we call it as real and imaginary part, right? R plus I. So these numbers are called as complex numbers because it's having two parts, right? The real part and the imaginary part, right? So the real part typically contains the numbers that we typically knows, right? A typical number, right? 5, 6, 7, whatever the number it is. And the remaining part contains a number, right? Or maybe just one with I, right? I means whatever the number in front of it, it actually multiplied by the square root of -1, right? Right. දැන් එක කියන එකේ වර්ගමූල ගන්න පුළුවන්ද අපිට? Can we calculate the square root of -1 or whatever the negative value? No, right? We cannot get the square root of any negative value. So because of that, we keep the square root of minus or the negative value as it is, right? අපි ඒකේ විදිහටම අපි එහෙම තියන්න පුළුවන්, right? එහෙම තියාගෙන අපි multiplications, additions, එහෙම නැත්නම් the operations of the over the complex numbers can be done, right? We can keep the square root of -1 as it is. In order to easily use it, we replace the square root of -1 with I or J, right? Just a symbol, and with using this one we can keep doing the operations, right? Typical operations. But then you have to know the operations defined only for the real part or the real numbers are be different from the complex numbers. So when you are going to use complex numbers, you have to redefine how you do these operations. So addition is there, subtraction is there, division also is there, and multiplication is also there, right? And also there are other couple of operations, like you can actually get the what do you call that, the absolute operations as well, right? You can get the absolute operation as well. So to do this one, you have to find how do you implement these things for the complex numbers. And one more thing, integers double short by those variable types are already defined inside the C#. So what about the complex type? Can you see any data type to hold complex numbers in C#? C# වල data type එක define කරලා තියෙනවද complex numbers store කරන්න සහ operations කරන්න? The answer should be no, right? There is no predefined object type to handle complex numbers. So because of that, we wrote our own class, right? We wrote our own class called complex, right? That complex includes x and y, right? X and y. So this x and y actually includes what? The x includes the real part, y includes the negative, complex part, or maybe the imaginary part, right? So here in this example, it actually overloaded the minus operator or the negative operator, make a negative operator. So okay, I will show you how it actually happened. So let's quickly create our new class. I'll create a new variable, sorry, a new class, add a new class, right? The name of the class is complex, okay. It's a class, right? So here we have a class called complex. So now what we are going to do, right? Initially these classes are having two variables, right? Let's define it as private double x and another one private double y. It doesn't matter, right? You can even just make it not double, keep it as not private but public, right? Make it public because we only have these two values. This is also public, right? We have now this is for the real part, right? To store the real part of the complex number, right? And this one to store the imaginary part of the complex number, right? As you can see, we have now x and y, right? Whenever you are going to use it, right? I will just delete this part and these two as well. Oops, complex. Right, now you have a complex number, right? Can you see what's inside? Yes, x and y is there, right? Okay, in order to make it more convenient, let's create a constructor for it, right? The real one and the imaginary one. So let's assign it. So it's for the real. Y is the I. Also, we'll create an empty one. The value becomes 0. Right. Let's go back here. You can actually start creating a variable like, okay, this means you have just 2 plus 5i, right? So can you just negate this one? Can you just negate the value of c? You can't, right? Why? You have not defined it. You have not defined it, right? Or let's say you are creating new one, complex x equal, okay, we'll use another one, a equal new complex and a equal c. This is possible, right? A equals is possible. A equal minus c. Operator minus cannot be applied to the operand type of complex, right? Why? Because we don't have it now. So what if we can override it, right? What if we can override it? Now here we have the public static complex operator, right? Public static complex operator, the operator. So we go here, and this is our complex class, our own defined class, and I will create operator overloading public static should be complex, and the operator right here you can say it should be operator negative mark, and here you have to pass another complex number C, let's say. Right now that's it. Right now, since we are just asking for returning a complex number has to be returned, so for now let's return null. Right, okay, we are going to work on that null value, right? Not the null, we are actually returning something. Now what really happens is we are going to just change the value of this C, right? How? C dot x equal negative of C dot x. Now this is possible. Why? X is what? X is just a double, right? So this one has already been defined. It can be subtract the negative කියන එක define කරලා තියෙනවා double එක double value එකට දැන්ටම define කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්. right, අවශ්‍ය නම් අපිට අලුතින් එකක් හදලා කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. right, මෙහෙම කරොත් වෙන්නේ දැන්ට තියෙන object එකත් negative වෙනවා. right, so in this way, if you do this in this way, we call it as a mutable operation. Right, it's a mutable operation. So whenever you call this one, whatever you are passing here also will get the negative one. But we don't like this, right? We need a new thing or new variable has to created. Let's create a new one. Complex result equal new complex. Here we pass and this one. So you can just remove the two, right? Because we directly put the negative of the two doubles, and you can return it. Done. Now let's go back here and uncomment. See, now it's working, right? It's working now. Now you can actually check what happens to the A, right? By using maybe a console output. Console dot write line A dot real is A dot x and here A dot imaginary plus A dot y. There you go, right? It's 2 5, and let's see what happened now. It seems that I have previously opened one. Let's rerun it. Now it says okay, -2 and -5, right? So we simply negate the value of C, right, just by using this operator, right? Assignment operator is already there, right? This one has been now we defined it now, right? Just now. See, okay, get back to. So how do you overload the true and false, right? true false operator, as I told you before, the true and false operator has to be overloaded as a pair. That means both has to be overloaded. If you are overloading one, definitely other one has to be overloaded. Now it's very simple. Typically, as the previously mentioned constraints, public should be static, and has to return. It should return a boolean, and the operator keyword should be there, and the operator itself is a true. And here you can pass your value, right, or whatever the object type. Now here we are passing a type of vector, right? So when we are checking with the vector, so we are actually checking whether the x and y value are 0, right? If they are not 0, then it is true. Otherwise, it says false, right? It returns false, right? Also, you have to implement it for the false as well. Here you are checking whether it is 0. 0 means it's true, and false means it's again. Sorry, if this is not equal 0, then it should returns false, right? Now vector is what? It's a kind of අපි කියන දෛචික කියලා. මේක දෛචිකයක් කියලා හිතන්න. X and y axis විතරක් තියෙන two dimensional vector එකක්. නැත්නම් මාන දෙකක දෛචිකයක්. එතකොට මේ දෛචිකය true වෙනවා කියලා අපි කියනවා. මේක අපි define කරගත්ත එකක්. මේ දෛචිකය true කියලා කියනවා. ඒ දෛචිකයේ මේ x දිශාවට විශාලත්වය සහ y දිශාවට විශාලත්වයෙන් දෙකින් එකක්වත් බිඳුව නොවේ නම් දෙක එකක්වත් බිඳුව වෙන්න බෑ, right? මේකේ හැටියට දෙකින් එකක් හෝ බිඳුව නොවේ නම් true. ඒ කියන්නේ දෙක එකක් හෝ බිඳුව නොවේ නම් අපිට return වෙන්නේ true එක, right? And similarly the negation is the false, right? Right. By any chance, do you know how to get the negation of this one? Make a negation එක ගන්න හැටි දන්නවද? Okay, if not, anybody heard something called De Morgan law? I can't remember the exact it must be De Morgan. That's De Morgan's law, right? De Morgan's law. So if you cannot remember, go back and just find what is De Morgan law, right? It will give you how do you negate having just two different expressions, right? What an income expression එක මේ මොකද negation mark එකක් දාලා හදන්න බෑ. ඒක පොඩක් වෙනස් වෙනවා. මැද්දේ තියෙන මෙන්න මේක වෙනස් වෙනවා, right? Go and check it again. Anyway, how to use it? It's very simple, right? Now here you define a vector test, and here you give the two values, and if within bracket test. Now this is just a vector image, a vector object, right? You pass it here, right? A vector object, you pass it here, and then it simply evaluate for the true, right? It's evaluating it for the true, and if it returns true, then it will print true. Otherwise, it will print false, right? This cannot be done. Okay, we'll try if we can do the same with our complex object. If A you can't do that, right? Why? The complex A does not define or does not override the operator, true operator or the false operator. So because of that, you cannot use it in this way. Now, typically for the complex number, there is no something like this true operator over true or false operator. So because of that, we are not going to define it for this. But still, if there is a object, then you can do it. there is an object that supports it, then you can do it by yourself. Right, here's another one. Overloading binary operators. Now, so far we did only for the unary operators, which is having only one operand. C, it's having only one operand, vector V, something like that. What if we have just two operands, right? For an example, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, like operation. So in that case, you definitely have to place two operands. And it's very simple. The anatomy is similar to the previous one. Only difference is this. You have two operands, so you have to put two operands in this way, type 1 and the T1 and T2, and can be in any two types, right? Now here we are using the same type because we are going to add two complex numbers here, right? And the remaining part is same. It's public, static, that's a must be return type. Operator keyword should be there and the operator is there. So this is one example. So if you want to just add two complex numbers, this is how you do it, right? This is how you do it. Adding two complex numbers results in adding the real part in one side and the imaginary part in the other side. So that means you are adding the real part and imaginary part separately and then create a new one. So we'll try this one as well. In our code, the complex number we are going to use public static complex, and the operator, yes, it is complex. Let's say C1, then we have another one, complex, C2. Right. So then we are going to add, okay. All right, this is for the returning problem, right? We'll put the return null for now because I don't like seeing errors while I'm coding. So I keep it null until I fix it. Now you can again create this new one, and we have just C1 and C1, right? But still we are going to add the same, but with C2, and here, but C2, right? Simply we are adding the two variables separately, and then we can return the result, right? Real part එක වෙනම add කරනවා, imaginary part එක වෙනම add කරනවා, ඒ add කරන value එක දාලා අලුතෙන් complex number එකක් හදලා ඒක return කරනවා. Now you can add the two complex numbers. Right, any question? Any question? Okay, seems like everybody understood, right? Now it's time to do a simple exercise. Now you have this plus operation, right? You have the implementation of the plus operation. Now the subtraction also can be done in the same way, right? You have already implemented this one as a unary operator, right? I need you to implement this one as a binary operator as well. Keep this one and you can try implementing the subtraction as just a subtraction operator, not as unary operator. right? මේක මෙතන තියෙන්නේ මේ අපි මේ මාක් එක පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙන්නේ negation operator එක නැත්නම් තියෙන value එක negate කරන්න නැත්නම් negative කරන්න වගේ, right? But anyway, we can use the same for subtraction. Subtraction takes two arguments and then you do the subtraction and then get it. So likewise, I need you to implement. Okay, I will send it through the chat box, right? Implement the, okay, you can try this one first. Here you have two tasks. First of all, overload the subtraction operator and the multiplication operator for the complex numbers, right? And also you have to overload another unary operator which you like. And I'm not specifying what unary operator that you have to overload, because you can give any definition for any unary operator which can be overloaded, right? Just think of any kind of unary operator and give the definition. But the definition, you should be able to get the magnitude of this complex number. Magnitude means the norm or the absolute value. So how do you get the magnitude? I will show you. First of all, how do you calculate the multiplication of two complex numbers? There you go. This is how you multiply. If you have x and y, then this is what you get when you multiply, right? X time of u minus y times of v plus x time of v plus y times of u, right? Implement this one. And then the other one is, how do you get the we call it actually call it as modulus, right? You can use a modulus, right? This is how you get the magnitude. When you have the real number and the imaginary number, you just square it, then add together, get the square root, and then you return it. That's the magnitude of the imaginary number. As you can see, 4 and 3. So what would be the answer? (16 plus 9), and the square root will be just 5, right? So implement this, and this one has to be done through an operator, unary operator. You have to do this now, right? And once you complete it, I will show you one application where you can use these complex numbers. Well, once you finished, I need you to implement this pseudocode. Now, this is just a pseudocode, so then it's not an actual program, right? So what it does is it receives, now you have to write a function, and it receives an x and y coordinate, right? or maybe just two values, x and y, then we have to do this one. You have a variable called iteration and also another variable called max iteration, which is a constant. And then you keep looping. How do you loop? This is how do you loop, right? So you make that x and y, right? You make that x and y as a complex number. So that means x plus yi. That is z, right? That is z, right? X and y, that is z. So what you have to do is you have to keep doing this. Z equal, right? Z equal z squared plus z squared means z multiplied by z plus c. Now c is again a constant, right? You can define a constant and make sure that you put that c into the function as with the same function. You can make a function එකට අපි දෙනවා z එකක්. z කියන අතරම x and y කියලා එකක් දෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තවත් complex number එකක් දෙනවා. ඒක c. right? ඒක c. මේ දෙක දුන්නාම කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ function මෙන්න මේ iteration එක කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ recursive එක කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද්ද කරන්න ඕන? z සමානයි z වර්ගය ධන c. මේක කොච්චර වතාවක් කරන්න ඕනද? මේක කරගෙන යන්න ඕනේ මෙන්න z කියන එක, right? මෙන්න මේ z කියන එක අපි දෙන value එකකට වඩා අඩු වෙනකන් කරගෙන යන්න ඕනේ. දැන් z වර්ගය ධන c කියන එක අපි දෙන value එකට වඩා අඩු වෙනකන් කරගෙන යන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් max iteration ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ value එකට වඩා වැඩි වුණ නැත්නම් ඒත් උපරිම යන්න පුළුවන් මේතේ හැරිට නම් 1000යි. ඒ වගේ ගානකට යන්න තියෙනවා. right? මේක අපි මෙන්න මෙයා මේ යන අතරදී මේ iteration එක යන අතරදී අපි count කරනවා කී වතාවක් මේක ගියාද කියලා. right? අන්නේ value එක කී වතාවක් ගියාද කියන එක අපි return කරනවා මේ function එකෙන් එළියට. right? So I will show the function what we have to write. Here you have, right? You are writing a function, right? It's a function, maybe public one, right? It's a public and static. What you return is just an integer, right? And here you say is in or let's say simply set Julia set, right? Because the name of what we are doing is actually we are filtering the things in the Julia set, right? So here you are sending complex z complex c and integer radius and integer max iterations, right? This is what you have to write. Then what you do, you are going to do something like this. While the z or the, let's say, absolute z dot magnitude, right? Int iterations, let's say 0. What you're going to do is while z dot magnitude is less than, the magnitude is actually, now you know how to calculate the magnitude and you already should have defined an operator to get the magnitude, right? You are checking whether it is less than r and then keep doing, and also and iterations less than max iterations. Now what you have to do is z equal z times of z plus c, and then iterations plus plus, and then you return iterations. That's what you have to do, right? Do this one, right? Do this one, and then I will show you what you can do with this with this one, right? But anyway, to do this one, you have to make sure that you implement. You have overriding. You have you override it. So that's what we have to do. Then I will show you how to implement it in the other way. Anyway, you have to implement all these operators, right? Okay, first do that, and then I will show you what you can do with that. So when you finish, get a copy of the code, and then you can open a new project which supports Windows applications, right? So that means you should go out from the console application. You have to make it sure that you are doing it within a console, the Windows application or the console application, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You can just keep implementing within the project that you have already open. Okay, as I told you before, I have created the same function. As you can see, it is okay. You can actually have only one NOR. Now to get the absolute, I use this tilde operator. I overloaded tilde operator to get the magnitude of this complex number, and I keep my iterations iterating, and also the max iteration I set to just 255, and this is my constant complex number c, right? Actually, you can get the constant from here, right? What we are going to do is we are going to create this art, and I use this one, this constant, right? If you like, you can pick any of them. For an example, if I'm going to use this one, then I will copy it, and then I am going to paste it here, and then use this, right? And also you can create okay, has to change then, right? That's all, right? And what I'm doing is here, right? What I'm doing here is I just traverse through. Now this is the paint method, right? If you remember GDI plus work we did in one of the previous lesson. So here what I'm doing is I'm just again get the graphic object reference, and then here I have width and height assigned of this window, and I'm going from 0 to width and 0 to height by traversing through the x and y. This is actually the coordinates, right? The coordinates are going from 0 to width and 0 to height, and then I create my complex number. So you can create the complex number by dividing this x by its width, right, and y by its height. Okay, I will remove this part. So this is what you get, right? You just divide the x by the width and y by the height. Now this is your z, which I am going to pass for the here, and the c is here, right? I told you how to get the c, another complex number, and the max iteration is 255. The radius is 255 again. You can reduce it if you like, and then I'm passing it to my Julia set function. This is the function I just defined. Now it finds some value iterations where I keep doing this operation, z equal z multiplied by z, and then plus c, and then it's doing this until one of these condition is dissatisfied, right? And then it returns this iteration. What I'm going to do is I'm just converting this value, the return iteration, to a color here, right? I'm just converting that value to color. This is actually a gray value, and I'm getting it from the ARGB of colors, and then I'm using it to draw a single pixel. මම එක පික්සල් එකක් ෆිල් කරලා අඳිනවා. අඳිද්දි මම පාවිච්චි කරනවා මෙන්න මෙතනින් හදපු කලර් එක පික්සල් එකක්. ඒ පික්සල් එක තමයි මෙන්න මේ x and y පික්සල්. right? පික්සල් එකේ size එක නිසා මම 1 by 1 දානවා rectangle එකට. Its location is x and y. So likewise, I'm going to draw each and every pixels over the screen, starting from 0 to width and 0 to height. Right? But I'm getting the color by setting this Z for the complex number. Right? As you can see, there's nothing else I have done. Only the things that I have explained to you. I gave this one. Here you can find it. It's the same method. Right? And also only difference is I have just defined these parameters, and also I'm going through each and every pixel, 0 to width and 0 to height. I did this in the form paint because I am going to draw something. So what I am drawing is just one pixel, right? Each and every pixel from 0 to width, and the color I am selecting through this process, Julia set process. So when you run this program, you should be able to see this kind of pattern. Right? So this is the pattern you should be able to see. And try drawing this one, and I will just stop this one. Right? I will try to send it to the middle actually. You can see the paranas that you can obtain. Even you can create three-dimensional graphics. Actually, you can try drawing any of these, but anyway, you have to first start with this, right? You can actually try doing maybe, okay, I will show you how to achieve the different colors as well. Slightly different color. Can set the R to be also you can try setting different values. You will get more complex arts here. And you can go through this article. This is actually from Wikipedia under the Julia set, right? Try creating different types of Julia sets by providing different values for the C. Right. I hope that you can see the different pattern, how we can generate different patterns out of these complex numbers we just created. But anyway, it becomes very easier because we have already overloaded our functions, overloaded our operators for the complex numbers. So because of that, you can do any kind of operation here. The basic one. Right, so any question? So any question? Yes, my complex number operator overloading, and this is the same class, and only difference is I have used I overloaded the multiplication, and I use tilde mark to do get the magnitude, right? Addition and subtraction were there already. Right, the variations, doing variations and practicing is totally upon you, right? I'm not asking you to, I'm not forcing you to do this, but anyway, if you do, just for yourself, right? So I know that you are, some or many of you are not doing it, and those who are doing it will get may get questions, and if you have questions, then you can ask it through the Google Classroom. Okay, so I'm going to stop for today and stop the meeting for now. But anyway, I'll be here till 11:30. And if you get any questions, you can ask. Okay, next week, I guess next week is the 4th, right? April 4th, sorry, the May 4th. If there is a, okay, if there's nothing on 4th, or there are no any barrier, on the 4th, we will do an assignment, right? I will give you an assignment, which is a practical assignment. So you have to complete it the same day, and then you have to submit it, right? I'll give you enough time, and you have to work on that given assignment, and then finish it. Then I will give you a link. Then to the link you have to upload it in the same day, right? On 4th. The context is the things that what we have covered so far, plus the things that you have covered in the first course, that is VP Visual Programming 1 course as well. So that means that the knowledge you gain from that course also will be helpful to accomplish any task given in this assignment, right? And the most part from what we have covered so far, right? We just passed only, I guess, 4 days, right? මේ දවස් 4 ඇතුළත cover කරපු ඒවා තමයි එන්නේ. Right? That's on 4th. Right? වෙන මොකද ඉෂුව එකක් තිබුණ නැත්නම් මම දන්නේ අපිට තියන්න පුළුවන් වේද කියලා මේ තියෙන තත්ත්වය හැටියට පුළුවන් වුණත් අපි 4 කරනවා බැරි වුණත් ඊට පස්සේ සතිය